Hey everybody, it is your favorite Wild PK. Yes, it's Lady Alicia, and I have some encouragement for you today. I'm so excited. It's the end of the month, and it's time to wrap up everything. Normally, in the beginning of the month, you're talking about what your plans are, you got your vision boards, you are mapping out this whole year, and you are saying, I'm going to commit to this thing. I got my New Year's resolution. And this is the first year I can honestly say that I don't have a New Year's resolution. Now, hear me out. Hear me out. I know the purpose of having one. You're supposed to write the vision and you're supposed to make it plain. But this year, my goal is to allow the Lord to just lead me. I want to say that there's a lot of times where I go through my most ups and downs in a year because I have all of these expectations. I have all of these goals for myself. And when I don't reach them, I am disappointed. Now, I'm not saying go completely without a plan or to live this life without a vision for what you want your life to look like, because that's important too. But I think that there's a lot of times when I make these New Year resolutions, I'm not consulting the Lord about what He would have in store for me. Like, for example, there were seasons in my life where I was like, this would be the year that I have a baby. And I didn't. I am a little bit older. And the closer and closer that I got to a certain age, I freaked out more and more and more. And it made it difficult to enjoy the process of trying to conceive. It made it difficult to even prepare for it. I have been part of the generation of believers where, it's like name it and claim it, right? So for you to get your next, you need to prepare for your next. And these thoughts are helpful to some degree, but they need to have limitations and boundaries. And I think the biggest thing was that I believed that I was taught that if I believe it to happen, then it has to happen. But there was no in God's timing. Yep, something just as simple as in God's timing. Because if I think about it, if I would have had a baby at the time frame that I was thinking about having a baby, it would have been awful. It would have been awful. And not saying that, not about the kids. It's just, that was back when I was making $9 an hour. I was making $9 an hour. Not even really full time at Bath and Body Works. I was a key holder at the time. And this is us recently getting married. I wanted to do it as soon as we got married. And we lived in a 1-bedroom apartment. And it's not that at the time we couldn't have made it. It just would have been very, very hard. It would have been so hard. Been so difficult. We would have been stressed and to go sleepless nights and to be worried. I would have had to go back to work immediately, and it just would have been hard. It would have been a challenge. I applaud anybody who is able to give birth and have to go back to work immediately to provide for their family. They are true soldiers. They are true. Or going back after a real big moment in life. Like, even if you've lost somebody, like, that's really hard to just go back to life as usual as if nothing happened. And it's like your whole life has changed. Nothing is the same. And you don't do that in 3 days, you don't do that in 6 to 12 weeks. Like, it takes time to readjust your whole entire life. And I'm learning, the older that I get, that in this life, You can have a plan, but it's still all in God's timing. And that's why we get so frustrated. I know I'm not alone in that. I'm like, God, you said I could have such and such. And he's like, I did. I did. But where is it at? Why is it not here? Oh, that was my, when I pray to the Lord, or when I talk to God, I talk to him like he's one of my homegirls. And I talk to him, I won't say with disrespect, but it's just, I want him to hear my heart. And it's like, God, I'm frustrated. I needed this promotion so I could do this thing. I needed this new job. I wanted this baby. I wanted to move out of an apartment and get a house. That I wanted to start my own business. That I wanted to do all these things. And you saw me make that vision board. You saw me at the top of the year put it together. You saw me make declarations of me losing this weight. You saw me, like, all the things that we do around this time of the year. Like, we have all of these plans, and we're saying that we're going to put them together. And God, I just want you to bless it. That's really what we're communicating. God, I have all of these things going on, and I just want you to bless it. I'm not even asking you what you would want me to pursue this year. I'm not even asking you if this is the way I should go. I'm not asking you, should I buy this house? And it's like, God, if I want to buy this house, what should I do? Like, should I, please hear my heart. Tell me I'm not the only one who's done that before, where I said, I'm getting married this year, and because I'm hell-bent on getting married this year, I fall for some joker that I shouldn't have fell in love with, or I'm not even in love with them. I'm just trying to get married. I'm just so focused on the end goal. I'm not looking at the actual fruit of it all. I know I'm not the only one. There's moments in our lives where we are just going. This is what makes me happy. I'm going to pursue this. I'm going to do this thing. And then you look up and you're like, man, where is God in all of this? I bought the business and it's doing well, but I don't like it anymore. That's the other half of it. Let's say you get everything that you've asked for and you don't like it. You're like, this is not what I thought it was going to be. There was a situation where I was like, God, I want to have a baby. And I felt like the job that I was working at prior, it was just it was a lot of physical labor, and it was heavy on my body. And I was like, that's how I lost I believed at the time that's how I lost the first baby. I could not rest. It's like I wasn't doing all the things, but it was a very stressful, labor-intensive job. But at the time I was providing for my household, and I'm like, okay, Lord, if I'm gonna have a baby, I need to find a job where it's not so stressful and I can sit at a desk. Because my thought about it was, it's not that being in an office wasn't going to be mentally challenging, but I thought it wouldn't be so much on my body, like it would just be, okay, Alicia, it's just your mental anguish. It's just mental anguish for things that you have to do, a mental task. And there was a company or organization that I had applied for, and they called me and they did an interview with me. And I'm doing what the world told me to do when it comes to, you check back with them, send them an email, and you reach out to them and you're like, hey, I just want to know where are you at in the process, and what was your decision? I was like, because I really do think I'd be a great fit for your organization, and I know that I have a lot to bring to the table. Eventually they did hire me, and I was ecstatic. I was so happy. I was like, yes, Lord. I was making like big bucks, and it was full time, and it wasn't that far from my house too. So it was like, it only took me 3 minutes to get to work. I'm looking like, oh God, this is checking off all the boxes. I was like, I'm making the money. It's not far from the house, so I don't have to drive so far, because I was driving almost an hour to and from work every day. And now I'm just driving a couple of minutes. And I was like, oh, this feels good. And I promise you, it was within the first 3 days that I felt like I made a mistake. Because the lady that I was working with was awful. She was a full-blown narcissist. And she was in a place in her life where she had launched out to do this amazing thing. Like the company that I worked for, the things that we were doing were amazing. It was amazing. I loved the work that I was doing, to see how impactful, and it was a nonprofit, and to see how impactful it was in my community. I felt like I was doing something big, and I was proud of the work that I was doing. But to work for this person, it felt like working for the devil. And how many times have we done that? It's like, God, I want this thing. I'm praying for it. God, just let it manifest. Do your thing, Lord. And we're seeking his face. And it's like, if I could just, in my mind, I was like, well, you know what? Maybe if I sent an email saying, thank you for the interview, this was really great. And then maybe if I said this and this and that and that, and maybe if I called and say, hey, I haven't heard anything. I just want to make sure if the position was still open, if they saw my hunger for it, it would be great. And they did. She did see my hunger. She was like, oh, okay, she wants to do this job. But after day 3, oh, it was awful. And then it was like, okay, I got to see this through. Maybe this was a misunderstanding. I promise you, I stayed there 2.5 years, and the Lord told me to stay. Now, I'll tell you this is hilarious to me. Now, when I wanted to quit, because she accused me of stealing $40 from the organization, all over a miscommunication. I was like, no, I didn't steal it. It's like, you told me to hold on to it, and I still held on to it. Why would I? It was like cashing it doesn't matter the particulars, but it was more like, she asked me to do something. I purchased the thing that she asked me to purchase for it, and then she forgot she asked me to do it. So then she went back and purchased it again, but then told me to request a refund since the one that she purchased was enough. And I was like, okay. So I asked for the refund, and after asking for the refund, I was supposed to just give her the money back. Well, since I'm the one who requested it, they put my name somewhere on the check just so that they knew who to give it to. And she flipped out, saying that I stole money from the company and I was requesting a refund, and like it was like a whole thing, and they were going to try to let me go. Like, they had my termination letter prepared for that, and I was like, I did not cash this check. It's only $40, and this is ridiculous. And after that, I bought like a baby and left. And not left, but I walked out of the establishment, and I went on my lunch break, and I cried. And I was like, God, what was this for? What was the whole point of this? And he was like, do not leave. Go back in there and stay until she releases you. This is exactly what I hear the Lord say. Grand scheme of things, I stayed that time. And right before then, COVID hit, and we worked from home for about a year. And I'm glad I listened. If I wouldn't have listened, it would have been really hard for me and my family at that time frame. But here I am trying to manifest, you know how we like to say, we want to manifest. If I put it down And if I write it down, then all of these things come together. It's like, I didn't ask God if this is a job for me. I didn't ask God, like, God, if this is not where I'm supposed to be, let this job pass me by. It eventually became a blessing because God will allow all things to work together for my good. But when I left that place, I was in shambles. In complete and utter shambles. And it's just because you could hear her heels walking through the place. And we were all on pins and needles. Me and all the rest of my coworkers. Like, I wouldn't even turn around just so that, hoping that she wouldn't talk to me. And if she talked to me, I spoke to her in like one-word answers. Just because she would get upset if you asked the question. She would get upset if you, like, so you don't have a question to ask? Like, it was bananas. It's like, I'm thankful for the experience of working in the recovery community because it was such a joy to work with the people we were servicing with. Like, I genuinely have a servant's heart. So it was great. Like, if I could go back and do more work like that, I would totally do it. But for this person, they were so insecure. They were a narcissist. They were paranoid as well. And it was a lot. So that was that job experience that I prayed for, you guys. I prayed for this. I was like, God, I want this job, and it's on my board. And I know that if I have this job, I can have my baby. And I know that, and it's like, I made up this whole situation and story in my mind that if I could have this type of a job, I could have my kid and things would be better. Do y'all know that lady fired me? 7 months pregnant. 7 months pregnant. Got fired. All because I had got to a place where, if you know this term, look it up. It's called gray rocking. And it's just not being emotionally available to someone who is a narcissist. And because she liked to pick fights with us in there. And she wanted to go back and wanted to do sparring mats and try to make people seem like they're dumb or that they don't know things. And I know she was intimidated by me. Didn't need to be, because I just wanted to go to work and go home. But it is what it is. And 7 months, she unlawfully fired me. And I promise you, it was the most devastating experience. I was like, who fires a woman and she's 7 months pregnant? And it was all because I was having a difficult pregnancy, and I believe it was due to all the stress that I was under, and I was bleeding, and my doctor recommended that that I be at home. Like, that's really what they wanted. They just wanted me to be at home, but I knew that I would not get paid to be at home. So I was like, I know she won't allow me to just be at home to get bed rest, because after I went to the emergency room and because I called out of work and I was like, hey, I'm having a real issue with my pregnancy and I won't be in work today and I'm in the hospital. She says, well, maybe you shouldn't come back to work at all if you're having a difficult pregnancy. What? I was like, are you firing me? And she was like, no, I'm not firing you. I'm not firing you. That was a Friday. Yeah, it was a Friday, a Thursday. Friday, I'm out of work. I stayed at home. And she was like, well, are you coming back ever? Like, are you telling me you're not coming back anymore? And I'm like, why do you keep saying this? I was like, well, no, I just got out of the hospital. But I'll probably pop in on Monday, just so that I can give you my doctor's note and all their recommendations. So I go in on Monday to give her the form, because she said she needed it printed out. Like, an email wouldn't work, so I had to go hand it in. And she said she wanted me to say that I was comfortable working in the office. Now, mind you, I'm still bleeding, like, a lot I'm still full on pregnant. Never had this issue prior to this moment. And she was like, you need to have it in writing that you feel comfortable not doing what your doctor recommended that you do, which is to stay at home if you want to keep your job. And I did not sign that paper. And that whole week she wasn't there. And then it was a Thursday, she tells me to ask my supervisor to walk me out of the building. And I'm like, okay, I'm walking out. You're telling me to go home? She was like, yeah, she said for you to go home. And I'm like, okay. And I'm like, okay, so you're telling me it's okay that I work from home? And she was like, no. And like she sent an email saying to turn in my keys on Monday. Like, this lady let me go, y'all. She let me go. Let me go. 7 months pregnant. I'm bleeding profusely. Like, they just told me that I needed to relax. They felt like my blood pressure was going up. It's not that I had preeclampsia or anything like that at the moment, but it was like they were worried. Everybody was worried that I might lose my son, my firstborn son. And y'all, I'm telling you, I made that job happen for myself because I wanted a baby that bad. It's interesting what we'll do to get the things that we want, you know? We'll go above and beyond to get the things that we want. We will, I don't want to say steal and kill for it, but like, you know, we'll manipulate, we will maneuver, we will rearrange some things, and we'll say, oh man, God bless me with this. And it felt good to say it, but not once did I ask God about any of those steps that I took. None of them. I am guilty of not consulting with the Lord. And this year, that time was a blessing in disguise. I did get pregnant. I did get to have my son, but I had him at the end of COVID, and nobody was hiring. Like, we all know what happened. Nobody was hiring. And since then, I've been at home. I've been at home since then. And paying for childcare was a lot. And it's like, well, it's better if I stay home. I'm thankful that the Lord provided for my husband so that he could earn. I had a job where he could sustain us. So the Lord still provided. He still is in the business of cleaning up my messes. You know, my son is here, alive and well. But I want to say this. How many times did I have to learn that lesson that God needs to be in the middle of it? Like, in everything that I do. Not that I won't make the wrong choice. Not that I have to be perfect. Just consulting with the Lord of what I should do. Like, right now, I'm in the process of applying for jobs. This is the first time where I'm not like, oh my gosh, if I don't get this job, you know, then this is going to happen, this is going to happen. Like, don't get me wrong. There were seasons of my life where I had to do what I needed to do to get the job that I needed. But I'm thankful to be in a position where if they don't hire me, or if they're not talking right, or if the math ain't mathing, as we like to say, I can go, you know what, this is not for me. Hey, I thought this would be a little different, but I see right now that our visions are not in alignment. So I'm going to go ahead and gracefully bow out. And they're like, no, I think you'd be a great fit. And I was like, if I'm going to do this is what it needs to look like for me. And I'm okay saying no. Give it to somebody else who be willing to do it. Because I'm just going to fuss. And I don't want to make that mistake anymore. I don't. And here's the fun thing. I was going to compare this to like Jonah. I said, but you know what, Jonah? in the whale, like Jonah, God specifically told him to do something, right? He specifically told him to do something. And because he was disobedient, he got swallowed up by the whale, spent a long time in the whale's belly, just end up right where he was supposed to be, right? Come to find out, that's not my situation. It's not that God told me, hey, I want you to stay at this place over here and work because your baby's on the way. It's like, no, I came up with this whole situation by myself. This whole plan by myself. And then what I think about is Eve. It's like, Eve was in the garden and it's not that she's consulting with the enemy and she's left alone in this moment. And he's breadcrumbing her, pretty much, in my opinion. And I'm just thinking, like, how many times did I hear something or see somebody else do something or think or take somebody else's words and go, you know what, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do what I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. Yeah, I'm going to make that happen because when they did that, this looks like, and it's like, not once did Eve go, you know what, I hear you, snake, but you know what, let me go ask the Father. Like, never once did she do that. Father God, look, I come before you boldly. Did the snake just told me, could you imagine how things could have been just different if she would have consulted the Lord in that moment and say, God, I want to have wisdom. I want to know more. I want to know things from, like, and the snake was telling me that the apple would allow me to do that. And I know you said not to eat of it, but is that something that I should do? Like, should I really eat of the apple? Like, do you think, like, I always wonder if she would have took a beat and just was like, I hear you, serpent, but let me go ask God real quick. I always wonder how things would have been different. You know, you don't want to shoulda, coulda, woulda too much, you know, because it's like, that's the beginning of time. So let's leave that task where it is. But that is what I can compare it to. Everything else that fell from it is a constant cleanup and a fixing of this perfect design that could have happened. And if we submit our will to his, and it's not about control. I know somebody might be listening and they're like, well, why all these bad things happen and why does this go on? And you know what, I'll be honest with you, I don't know. One thing I do know is that God gave us free will. And that's the law that he gave himself. He does not infringe upon our free will. He goes places where he's invited, and he'll build a relationship with the ones who ask for it. He's a gentleman like that. But I will also tell you that in the midst of figuring out who you are and who he is to you and pursuing a relationship with him will help you walk this life in a way where, you know what, God is with me. Not alone. In the last episode, we talked about letting things go, but we're not supposed to walk this life alone. It says in his word that God looked at Adam and said it's good for him not to be alone, but he wanted to walk with Adam as well. In all of his life, he wanted to walk alongside of him. So for you right now, if you got a big decision that's coming up, if you got a big situation or you're looking for guidance, and I've had a friend tell me before, she was like, she's my best friend, and she told me when we first kind of started being friends, she was like, Alicia, how do you talk to the Lord? And I was like, I hear him clear as day. I hear him clear as day. There's moments where he's like, girl, don't do that. Don't do that, girl. I'm not going to do that. I was just thinking about it. I'm not going to do it. There are moments where he just talks to me directly. And she was talking about how he talks to her in visions and in dreams. And I was like, yeah, that too. And she was like, but how do you get him to do that? And I was like, you have to be quiet. You have to be still, and you have to not rush him. I was like, I know in my mind, it's hard for my mind to be quiet because I'm thinking about every situation, every conversation, every outcome, because I want to make the right choice. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's like I outweigh all the pros and cons. Like I write them down. Like I was really, really bad with that. Like, not that I was hard at making a choice, but I put so much pressure on me to know everything about before making a choice, you know? Like, I didn't want to make the wrong choice, so I spent time, like, getting the research together and putting the case together. I'm like, okay, if I do this, this will happen, this, and it's like, I want to think about my choices. I want to process my choices. But the way I was doing it, I would be consumed by this choice. So then let's say I made the wrong one, right? I would beat myself up continuously. Should have never talked to that man. I should have never took that job. I should have never, you're stupid. No. I know it. You're like, whoa, that's a big word, calling yourself stupid. But it's true. There's moments where you just beat yourself up so bad for not being able to see the future. Because that's what you're really mad about. You're trying to prevent something bad from happening. But when I think about it, I never asked God. I should have just asked God. God, if this be your will, let this manifest. Let this happen. Let this be what you need it to be, not what I need it to be. And if this is not for me, God, I pray that you let it pass me by. I was afraid to do that because then it's like I might not ever get what I want. Because if you've listened to me before, I'm a preacher's kid, and I felt really neglected. So the things that I would want or ask for, I would never get it. Because why? And I'm the middle child too. Y'all help me. Y'all keep praying for me. But it's like we get so neglected. They don't care about us. But I'll tell you that I refuse to spend another day not asking God what I should do. I'm not talking about coffee. I'm not talking about should I, you know how we do, like, how we praise the Lord for like a parking spot that comes up at the front. Can we really be honest? Go park in the back and take those steps and walk to the front, because you know you probably need to walk today. Like, just go ahead and go ahead, park that car. Just park it. Stop circling that parking lot trying to find a parking space all the way up front. Go ahead, just park it, especially if it's daylight hours. Now, ladies, I know if it's dark, you want to park up as close to the front as possible. Do your thing. But, like, for most of us, we'll praise God. We'll circle a parking lot for almost 10 minutes trying to find something up front. When we could have parked, went inside, got what we needed, and came back out. That's crazy, right? I'm not talking about asking God for that kind of stuff. That's not important. But I mean, you could praise the Lord for it, but like at the same time, that's not important. I'm not asking God about no parking space. God, let me get in here. I pray that you bless me with this parking space so I can. That's crazy. That's crazy. When I think about it, we do it though. You know, you do it, whether it's a parking space or, you know, somebody drops some money and you're like, oh, look at God, like. I was like, won't he do it? Like, you're just thankful. You're like, oh, yes, Lord. But I'm talking about life-changing decisions. I'm talking about moments that impact your life. You might be considering just trying to have another baby, and you've had 2 or 3 before, and you're like, gosh, instead of just having having the baby because it's like, well, if we're pregnant, that's the Lord. It's like, no, if you have sex, the likelihood of you having a baby is real. Ask the Lord, is this, should we try for another baby? Ask him that. Whether it's difficult to have another one, ask him if you should keep trying. Ask him if you should go for this job. Ask him, should you go for this promotion? Ask him if you should start this hobby. Yes, something like a hobby, because that takes up your time. It takes up your energy. It's like, God, should I start this? God, should I start this podcast? God, should I go and dedicate my life to ministry? God, should I be an employee of this church? God, like, ask him and pray and wait for him to give you an answer. Wait for him to give you an answer. The truth of the matter is that, if I'm honest, we don't ask him because we don't want him to tell us no. God, I want this. And he's like, you don't want him though. You don't want to be with that man. You don't know that man right there has an addiction, and with his addiction, he gambles all the time, and as much money as he's going to make, he's going to lose twice as much, and you're going to have to bail him out. You don't know that this nursing home that you want to send your mother to is not going to be good for her, because why? She's going to be surrounded by people who aren't going to take care of her. Like, things like that. Ask him. Ask him. So, we're going to end this with a prayer. And it's just to encourage you. Is God in what you're doing? Have you put him back in what you're doing? Not that you can't have your heart's desires, but are you asking for his timing, his perfect timing? Are you asking for it? Like, God, grant me your perfect timing. Let me know what you would have for me this year. I want to end it with a prayer and a homework assignment. I'm going to tell you the homework assignment first, and then we'll end it with a prayer. I want you to spend some personal time with the Lord tonight. However long you need to, but I recommend 30 minutes, okay? I recommend 30 minutes. It's like whether you need some worship music or whether you need some basic, just some time to yourself, like be in a room where it's quiet. And you start to pray. At the end of your prayer, you get quiet and you settle in and you just start to write. Yep, you're just writing like, God, this is, you can write your prayer down. Absolutely. You can write your prayer down and ask God to speak to you. And keep doing that. And it's like, God, I just need you to speak to me in this moment. Now, for my new beginners, it may be hard. And you're like, I don't know. I don't know if I'm hearing God. I don't know if that's me. I don't know if he's even talking to me. But I'll be honest with you. You'll know the difference. And he might show up in somebody else talking through them. Like, you might get a friend of yours to say, you know what? I was thinking about you yesterday. And you were talking about buying a house. And I don't know. I'm not saying that you shouldn't do it. I think you should wait. And you're like, what? Yeah, I think you should wait to buy that house. Because the house that you want, maybe it'll come down. And you're like, they didn't know I prayed that last night. You know what I'm saying? They didn't know I made that prayer, that silent, that secret prayer to God. And it works that way too. Or he'll give you a dream as you sleep. And he'll show you doing things. And you're like, oh, okay, so I should do that. I should do that. God will reveal to you what you should do. And just continue to ask for his timing. Because when we follow his steps, things are easier. Even if it's the decision to stop. Hey, God, should I stop this? And he's like, yeah. Yeah, you should. Yeah, you should. You should stop this. Don't go any further. This is where it ends. I'm like, oh my goodness. Okay. Yes, Lord. There's that. There's the other part of all of this is you just don't want to waste any more time. That's where I'm at. I don't want to waste any more time trying to think I got it together. It's like I've cried all the tears. I have mustered up all the courage. I don't want to be stressed out and panicky anymore, have anxiety anymore. I want to let it go by letting God be God and let him lead me on this dance floor of life. Like, lead me. So let me pray for you. Father God, I say thank you. Thank you for this moment. Thank you for the ability to reveal that you want to be in the midst of what it is that we're doing. It's not even just choosing you first, God. It's just choosing your way for my life. Because you see all, you know all. You are in the beginning. You're going to be in the end. And you're with me right now. God, let me be able to take my hand off the steering wheel and allow you to actually drive. Allow you to show up for me in a way that I've never experienced before. God, let your voice be clear in this season. Let us be able to hear from you. Let us be able to know your voice so that when you do speak to us, we know it's you. There's no doubt. As we dig deeper, as we pursue you, as we pursue your word and getting to know you better, God, allow your voice to be clear. Allow us to quiet our minds to be able to hear you, Lord. Even in this season, if there's chaos going around, God, we ask that you give us peace in this moment so that we can hear you, we can see you, we can feel you, whether it's in visions, whether it's through prophetic word through others. God, give us the guidance that we're asking for. Allow us to just know that it's you. God, we're chasing after you to get to know you better so that we can recognize your voice, that we don't shun from it, and we're not just guiding ourselves through this place called life in a way where we're just so burdened with trying to do it. God, we know that you'll grant us our heart's desires. We know that you make all things possible. We know that if you keep us from it, it's for a reason. It's for a good reason. And we also know that if it doesn't happen, you are still a good God. All things may not be for us, but we know that you're still a great God. So in this moment, I pray for all of my brothers and sisters that are listening in. I pray that they find peace. I pray that they find joy. And I pray that they find content in the spot that they're in right now, in you, so that they can be whole and healthy. In Jesus' name I pray, amen. You guys, this was great. I want to say thank you so much for joining me this episode. The goal will be to put one out every Monday at 7 p.m. Please make sure you check my link tree. It's in the bottom. It's so that you can see what else I have out there. I do have Wild Preacher's Kid merch as well. And it's great for all sizes and for all ages. And it's just to help me do some of the things that I'm doing right now. I do have a virtual class that's coming up as well. I am a media director. Just to give you some background story about myself, I'm a media director at my local church, but I do coach multiple churches on getting online and learning to stream and and I give some real tools. Like, I want you to know how to do this. And it's just something that you can participate in if you or your ministry is trying to start doing these things. Right now, the next class is February 2nd at 4 p.m. on a Sunday. And we're focusing on social media for nonprofits and for ministries. The focus behind it is that people need to know what your church is doing. People need to know what good work you're doing at your nonprofit. Like, it's not just you talking about it, but people want to see the lives that you're touching and the lives that you're impacting in this community, in your community. And I want to help you do that. I want to give you some real easy tools that are user friendly, and most of the tools that I give are free. The class is $65, and it's worth it. I promise you. Anybody who's taken my classes before, they normally say that it's worth more than the $65, but I try to keep it low so that people can participate and build, because there's so many places out there that want you to spend all your money, and then the idea is that the thought is that they're gonna help you do this, but the reality is you're still gonna have to do it by yourself. I don't want 20 bands, I promise you, but it'll be $65 for this virtual course, and it's in the link as well. You guys, thank you so much for hanging out with me. I pray that the Lord blesses you. And my encouragement is always keep being wild for God. Keep seeking his face. And keep pursuing him even after the hurt. Because there's healing on the other side of that. I don't know who that was for, but thank you. I love you guys. And I'll see you next week, Monday at 7.